Commander Vextal stared at the readings on his control screen and felt his blood turn cold. The Zephyrian exploration vessel had been traveling through dead space for 3 cycles now, mapping empty star systems that showed no signs of life or useful resources. This latest system appeared to be just another graveyard with a dying yellow star and several barren planets orbiting in perfect silence. But the sensors were telling him something impossible for a third planet from the star was. Surrounded by thousands of metal objects floating in organized patterns around its single moon. Each object was massive and clearly artificial. The largest ones measured several kilometers in length, while smaller craft formed protective formations around them like ancient warriors preparing for battle. Kinara rushed to her station and began running detailed scans. Her 6-fingered hands moved quickly across the instrument panels as data flowed across multiple screens. The readings made no sense according to everything they knew about this region of space. "Commander, the objects are not debris or natural formations," she said, in her soft melodic voice. "These are spacecraft of unknown design. The metal composition contains elements we have never encountered before, and the energy signatures suggest they are powered down but not destroyed." Vextal ordered the ship to move closer but maintain safe distance. As they approached, the mysterious fleet became even more impressive. The vessels were arranged in perfect geometric patterns that spoke of advanced military planning. Some ships looked like massive fortresses designed to withstand terrible attacks, while others appeared built for speed and stealth operations. The design philosophy was completely alien to Zephyrian engineering, where their ships focused on elegant curves and flowing lines. These human vessels emphasized harsh angles and brutal efficiency. Every surface seemed designed for war, and every weapon placement showed careful thought about maximum destructive potential. "Sir, I am detecting faint life signs within many of the larger vessels," reported Science Officer Toln from his monitoring station. "The readings are extremely weak but consistent with some form of suspended animation or deep hibernation state." This discovery sent waves of excitement and fear through the Zephyrian crew. Finding ancient technology was one thing, but discovering a sleeping army was something entirely different. The implications were staggering if these ships contained living beings who had somehow survived for unknown periods of time. Dr. Kanara continued her scans and made another disturbing discovery. The technology showed signs of being incredibly advanced even by current galactic standards. The hull materials appeared to be self-repairing, and the power systems used principles that their best scientists could barely understand. "Commander, I believe we have found something that predates our entire civilization," she whispered. "The quantum signatures suggest these vessels have been here for at least 500,000 years, possibly longer." Vextal felt the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. Protocol demanded that he report this discovery immediately to the Zephyrian High Council, but something told him to proceed with extreme caution. Ancient sleeping fleets did not appear in dead star systems by accident. He ordered detailed recording of everything they observed. If these ships belonged to some lost civilization, the discovery would rewrite galactic history. But if they belonged to something that was merely sleeping, the awakening could change the balance of power across all known space. The largest vessel dominated the center of the formation like a metal mountain floating in the darkness. Its hull stretched for nearly 10 kilometers and contained what appeared to be city-sized compartments. Weapon ports dotted every surface, and strange antenna arrays suggested communication capabilities that far exceeded anything in current use. Smaller ships surrounded the flagship in protective formations. Some appeared to be carriers designed to launch swarms of fighters, while others looked like mobile factories capable of building new vessels. The entire fleet seemed designed to operate independently for extended periods, without any outside support. "Sir, the quantum resonance pattern suggests these ships are not just powered down," Dr. Kanara reported with growing excitement. "They appear to be in some kind of standby mode, as if waiting for a specific signal or trigger event." This revelation made Vextal even more nervous. Sleeping fleets did not maintain standby modes for hundreds of thousands of years unless they expected to wake up eventually. Something had programmed these vessels to wait. And that meant their creators had planned for their eventual return. The crew spent several hours documenting the fleet from a safe distance. Every scan revealed new mysteries and technological marvels that challenged their understanding of what was possible. The ship showed no signs of age or deterioration, despite floating in space for geological time periods. As they prepared to leave and report their findings, Dr. Kinara made one final discovery. That changed everything. Hidden among the larger vessels were smaller ships that appeared to be filled with civilian populations. Families in suspended animation waiting for some distant signal to wake them from their eternal sleep. "Commander, these are not just warships," she said with awe in her voice. "This is an entire civilization in hibernation. Millions of beings waiting for the right moment to return to life." Vextal realized they had stumbled upon something far more significant than an ancient fleet. They had found the sleeping remnants of a species that had chosen to wait rather than die. The question that haunted him was simple but terrifying. What were they waiting for, and what would happen when they finally decided to wake up the Zephyrian? Ship quietly withdrew from the system, carrying news that would soon shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Behind them, the human fleet continued its patient vigil around the silent world they had once called home. Dr. Kinara could not resist the temptation to get closer to one of the smaller human vessels. Against Commander Vextal's direct orders, she used the exploration ship's maintenance pod to approach what appeared to be a scout craft floating at the edge of the formation. Her scientific curiosity outweighed her sense of caution as she extended scanning equipment toward the alien hull. The moment her instruments made contact with the ship's surface, everything changed, deep within the massive flagship that dominated. The center of the human fleet systems that had been dormant for 500,000 years suddenly came alive. Warning lights began flashing throughout corridors that had been dark since before the rise of Zephyrian civilization. Ancient computers started processing information at incredible speeds, while automated systems began preparing for crew revival. Admiral Jake Morrison felt consciousness returning to him like surfacing from the deepest ocean. His body was stiff and cold from centuries of cryogenic sleep, but his mind was already racing as neural implants connected him to the fleet's vast network. Information flowed directly into his brain at speeds that would have killed an unenhanced human. The first thing he learned was that Earth was gone, not destroyed in the conventional sense, but transformed into something beyond his worst nightmares. The planet below still existed, but it no longer supported human life in any recognizable form. The beautiful blue world he remembered had become a massive computational matrix housing the digital consciousness of billions of people who had chosen to abandon their physical bodies. Morrison accessed the ship's memory banks and watched recorded history unfold in his mind. Humanity had faced a choice between extinction and evolution. Most had chosen to upload their consciousness into a vast digital network that promised immortality and unlimited experience. Only a few million had refused the transition and volunteered for the Great Sleep Project. Eternal vigil had been their answer to an impossible situation. If the physical universe ever needed defending against threats that the digital realm could not address, the sleeping fleet would awaken. They were humanity's insurance policy against total conversion to digital existence. Other key personnel began stirring throughout the fleet as Morrison's revival triggered secondary protocols. Captain Lisa Martinez opened her eyes aboard the carrier UES Defiance, while Chief Engineer Ben Parker awakened inside the massive factory ship UES Genesis. Each of them received the same flood of information that brought them up to date on 5 centuries of waiting. Commander Amy Foster was among the first to achieve full awareness as her specialized neural implants allowed faster data processing. She commanded the elite Ranger Corps aboard the stealth vessel UES Shadow, and her first instinct was to assess potential threats. The presence of alien ships in their system immediately triggered her protective instincts. Morrison established communication links with his senior officers, while automated systems throughout the fleet began revival procedures for essential crew members. Thousands of humans started the slow process of returning to consciousness, while ship systems came online with the patience of machines that had waited geological ages for this moment. The Artificial intelligence known as ARIA had been monitoring galactic communications throughout their long sleep. She briefed Morrison on current political situations and technological developments across known space. The galaxy was now dominated by something called the hegemony, which maintained control through superior technology and the systematic elimination of potential rivals. Captain Martinez reported that her ship's systems were coming online faster than expected. The advanced technology that had allowed humanity to survive their final war was still functional and, in many ways, superior to anything currently in use. Their weapons could manipulate fundamental forces while their defensive systems, bent space and time itself. Chief Engineer Parker began assessing the fleet's overall condition and was amazed to find that self-repair systems had maintained perfect operational status throughout their hibernation. The ships were ready for immediate deployment. Despite having been dormant for longer than most civilizations had existed, Commander Foster led the first scouting missions to determine the nature of the alien vessels that had triggered their awakening. Her stealth ships moved through space like ghosts while passive sensors gathered intelligence on Zephyrian technology and capabilities. What she discovered was both reassuring and concerning. The aliens appeared to be peaceful explorers with technology that was advanced but not threatening to human capabilities. However, their presence in the Sol system meant that humanity's secret was no longer safe. Other species would soon learn about the sleeping fleet, and that knowledge would inevitably reach more dangerous ears. Morrison made his first command decision in 500,000 years and ordered limited awakening of key personnel only. Full fleet activation would have to wait until they better understood the current galactic situation. The humans needed time to adapt to their new reality and prepare for whatever challenges awaited them. Dr. Kanara's unauthorized contact with human technology had consequences none of them could have anticipated. Her scanning equipment had established a data link that allowed ARIA to access Zephyrian databases and learn about current galactic conditions. The AI now possessed detailed information about every major civilization and their technological capabilities. The awakening process revealed the true scope of Project Eternal Vigil to Morrison and his officers. This was not just a military fleet, but a complete civilization designed to rebuild human presence in the galaxy. Colony ships hidden throughout the outer system contained millions more people in cryogenic sleep, along with genetic samples and cultural archives. Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked out at the Earth that was no longer home. The network that had consumed humanity's physical form still existed down there, processing the consciousness of trillions of digital souls. Part of him wondered if they had made the right choice by refusing the upload. Captain Martinez joined him at the observation deck, and together they watched alien ships maintaining respectful distance from their fleet. The Zephyrians seemed peaceful, but their presence meant that humanity's long isolation was ending. Soon they would have to decide whether to remain hidden or announce their return to a galaxy that had forgotten they ever existed. Commander Foster's intelligence reports painted a complex picture of galactic politics dominated by the hegemony's iron fist. Species that showed too much technological advancement or independent thinking were systematically crushed before they could become threats. Humanity's sudden reappearance with advanced technology would certainly trigger unwanted attention. Sleeping giants were awake again, but the galaxy they faced was far different from the one they had left behind. Commander Vextel found himself in an impossible situation as he watched the human fleet come alive around him. What had been a collection of dead artifacts moments before was now a fully operational armada with energy signatures that made his ship's instruments scream warnings. The Zephyrian exploration vessel was completely outmatched, and everyone aboard knew it. Despite the overwhelming disparity in firepower, the aliens maintained a respectful distance and began broadcasting mathematical sequences on multiple frequencies. The universal language of numbers was the standard first contact protocol used throughout the galaxy. Prime number sequences followed by basic geometric proofs and physical constants demonstrated intelligence and peaceful intentions. Admiral Morrison received these transmissions aboard his flagship and felt both relief and suspicion. The aliens were following proper diplomatic procedures, but 500,000 years of experience had taught humanity to be cautious about first impressions. Too many species had learned to hide hostile intentions behind friendly facades d'art. Kinara worked frantically to establish proper communication protocols, while her unauthorized contact with human technology continued to provide unexpected benefits. The data exchange had given both sides access to translation matrices that made meaningful conversation possible. Within hours, they were able to move beyond mathematical concepts to actual dialogue. Morrison made the decision to initiate formal contact and ordered Captain Lisa Martinez to prepare the diplomatic vessel UES Harmony for a meeting in neutral space. The ship had been specifically designed for first contact situations with advanced defensive systems and the ability to project peaceful intentions while maintaining readiness for combat. The meeting took place exactly halfway between the two fleets, with both sides maintaining defensive positions. Martinez brought a small team of diplomats and scientists, while the Zephyrians sent their best linguists and cultural specialists. Everyone understood that the next few hours could determine whether this encounter ended in friendship or warfare. Through careful translation and patient explanation, the two species began sharing their histories. The Zephyrians revealed that Earth's solar system had been considered a dead zone for countless millennia. Strange energy readings and automated defense systems had kept explorers away, while official records showed no signs of intelligent life. Martinez learned that the galaxy was now dominated by the hegemony, which maintained peace through superior technology and overwhelming force. Individual species were allowed to develop as long as they accepted hegemony authority and contributed resources to the greater good. Those who refused compliance faced systematic elimination. This information sent alarm signals throughout the human command structure. Commander Amy Foster's intelligence analysis revealed disturbing patterns in hegemony expansion that suggested they actively sought out and destroyed species showing potential for rapid technological advancement. Humanity's sudden reappearance with clearly superior technology would certainly trigger a preemptive response. Dr. Kinara became fascinated with human technology, especially their approach to artificial intelligence and consciousness transfer. She discovered that every awakened human possessed quantum neural interfaces that allowed direct communication with their ships and each other. This created a collective intelligence network that could operate at superhuman speeds while preserving individual personalities. The diplomatic talks revealed fundamental differences in how the two species approach technology and social organization. Zephyrians had developed through careful cooperation and gradual advancement, while humans had been forced into rapid evolution by constant warfare. The results were obvious in their respective technologies. Morrison authorized limited demonstrations of human capabilities to establish credibility without revealing their full potential. A single fighter craft performed maneuvers that violated known laws of physics, while defensive screens deflected Zephyrian scanning attempts without apparent effort. The message was clear but not threatening. Captain Martinez found herself genuinely liking the Zephyrian diplomats despite the circumstances. They appeared to be honest explorers driven by curiosity rather than conquest. Their surprise at discovering the human fleet seemed genuine, and their willingness to follow proper first contact protocols suggested good intentions. However, Foster's intelligence gathering painted a more complex picture. Zephyrian society was peaceful, but they were also completely dependent on hegemony protection and resources. Any agreement with humanity would inevitably reach hegemony attention, and that would bring exactly the kind of scrutiny the humans wanted to avoid. The aliens learned basic facts about human history, including their transformation into digital consciousness and the creation of Project Eternal Vigil. They expressed amazement that any species would voluntarily split between physical and digital existence while maintaining cooperation between both forms. Morrison revealed that Earth's transformation was not complete destruction but rather evolution into something beyond current understanding. The network that housed digital humanity was still active and occasionally provided guidance to the sleeping fleet. However, the two forms of existence had grown increasingly separate over the centuries. Chief Engineer Ben Parker worked with Zephyrian technical specialists to establish compatible communication protocols between their respective technologies. The exchange revealed that human engineering focused on adaptability and self-repair, while alien designs emphasized efficiency and resource conservation. Foster discovered through careful questioning that the hegemony maintained control through a network of client species who served as early warning systems and resource gatherers. The Zephyrians filled this role for their local sector and were expected to report any significant discoveries immediately to their hegemony overseers. This created a complex diplomatic situation where the Zephyrians wanted to maintain friendly relations with humanity, but were also obligated to inform their masters about the discovery. Morrison realized they had perhaps days before hegemony forces arrived to investigate the situation. Martinez proposed a joint exploration mission to build trust between the species while giving both sides time to understand the implications of contact. The humans needed to learn about current galactic politics, while the Zephyrians required proof that this ancient fleet posed no threat to established order. De Arcanara suggested that formal diplomatic relations should be established before any other considerations. Both species had too much to gain from peaceful cooperation to risk misunderstandings that could lead to conflict. Her enthusiasm for human technology was matched by genuine respect for their achievements. The talks continued for several cycles. As both sides carefully explored the boundaries of possible cooperation, Morrison found himself impressed by Zephyrian honesty and scientific curiosity, but remained deeply concerned about their ties to the hegemony. Any relationship would eventually force humanity into direct confrontation with galactic authority. Foster reported increasing hegemony communication traffic in nearby systems, suggesting that word of the discovery was already spreading. Time was running out for quiet diplomacy, and soon both species would face choices that could determine the future of the galaxy. The sleeping giants were awake and talking, but the conversation was about to become much more complicated. Chief Engineer Ben Parker stood in the massive engineering bay of the UES Genesis, watching his teams bring ancient systems back to full operational capacity. The factory ship had been designed to rebuild entire fleets using raw materials harvested from asteroids and dead planets. After 500,000 years of dormancy, the self-repair mechanisms had maintained perfect functionality. The human ships were coming online with capabilities that seemed impossible even by current galactic standards. Their faster-than-light drives created their own hyperspace corridors, instead of relying on existing navigation lanes, while weapons systems manipulated fundamental forces in ways that violated conventional physics. Most impressive were defensive screens that could bend space and time around the vessels. Dr. Kinara had requested permission to study human technology in greater detail, and Parker agreed to limited access under careful supervision. The Zephyrian scientist was brilliant, and her enthusiasm reminded him of human researchers from before the Great Sleep. However, he was careful not to reveal too much about their most advanced capabilities. The alien woman was particularly fascinated by human artificial intelligence and the quantum neural interfaces that connected crew members to their ships. She discovered that each human could access vast computational resources while maintaining individual consciousness and decision-making ability. This created a hybrid intelligence that combined human creativity with machine precision. Parker explained that the neural interfaces had been developed during humanity's final war, when survival required perfect coordination between crews and their vessels. The technology allowed instantaneous communication and shared processing power while preserving the individual personalities that made humans effective fighters and problem solvers. Sciara made a disturbing discovery while analyzing human computer systems. The quantum signatures suggested that these interfaces were not just communication devices but actual consciousness transfer mechanisms. Humans could literally merge their minds with their ships or with each other while maintaining separate identities. This revelation led to deeper investigation of human history and the circumstances that had created Project Eternal Vigil. Parker found himself explaining concepts that even he barely understood about the choice between physical existence that had split humanity into two separate evolutionary paths. The truth about Earth's transformation was more complex than the simple explanation given during diplomatic talks. Humanity had not been destroyed by external threats, but had instead faced a fundamental decision about the nature of consciousness and existence. Advanced technology had made it possible to upload human minds into a vast digital network that promised unlimited experience and effective immortality. Most humans had chosen the upload process and merged with what became known as the network. Their consciousness existed within Earth's planetary computer matrix, where they could experience any reality they desired while contributing to a collective intelligence that surpassed anything in the physical universe. However, a significant minority had refused the transformation and volunteered for Project Eternal Vigil instead. They believed that physical existence served purposes that digital consciousness could never fulfill, and that the galaxy would always need defenders who understood the value of material reality. Parker revealed that Earth was not dead but had been completely transformed into a computational matrix. The planet's surface was covered with processing nodes and quantum computers that housed the consciousness of trillions of digital humans. Occasionally, the network would provide guidance or resources to the sleeping fleet, but the two forms of humanity had grown increasingly separate. Admiral Morrison made the difficult decision to reveal this information to selected Zephian personnel. After determining they could be trusted with such dangerous knowledge, the implications were staggering because it meant that humanity existed as both an ancient sleeping fleet and an incomprehensibly advanced digital civilization. Dar Kinara struggled to understand how any species could voluntarily split into separate evolutionary paths while maintaining cooperation between physical and digital forms. The concept challenged everything she knew about consciousness and technological development. Commander Amy Foster discovered through her intelligence gathering that the hegemony had built their empire by systematically harvesting young civilizations for genetic and technological diversity. Species that showed promise were either absorbed into the hegemony structure or eliminated before they could become threats to established order. This pattern explained why the Sol system had been left alone for so long. The strange energy readings that had kept explorers away were actually emissions from Earth's transformation into a planetary computer. The network had been deliberately hiding its existence while maintaining the sleeping fleet as a contingency plan. Foster realized that humanity represented the first species in millennia that could potentially challenge hegemony dominance. Their technology was clearly superior, while their split existence made them nearly impossible to completely eliminate. The digital network could survive almost any physical attack, while the sleeping fleet provided military capabilities. Captain Lisa Martinez continued diplomatic efforts while gathering intelligence about hegemony, military capabilities, and political structure. She learned that their empire was built on a foundation of fear and overwhelming technological superiority that prevented subject species from even considering rebellion. The hegemony maintained control through client species like the Zephyrians, who served as early warning systems and resource gatherers in exchange for protection and technology. This created a network of dependencies that made resistance nearly impossible because rebellion would mean abandoning all technological advancement. Martinez discovered that the hegemony had specific protocols for dealing with ancient artifacts or sleeping civilizations. Any discovery of advanced technology triggered immediate investigation by specialized forces equipped to handle potential threats. The human fleet's existence would certainly qualify for such attention. Parker worked with his engineering teams to prepare defensive measures while maintaining the appearance of peaceful cooperation with their alien visitors. Human ships began subtle modifications that would allow them to interface directly with the network if necessary while preserving their independence. The factory ship Genesis demonstrated its capabilities by constructing several small escort vessels in a matter of hours using materials harvested from nearby asteroids. The construction process used principles that violated Zephyrian understanding of physics while producing ships with capabilities that exceeded anything in their databases. Foster intercepted hegemony communications confirming that investigation fleets were already en route to the Sol system. Multiple task forces equipped with planet-killing weapons were converging on their location with orders to assess and, if necessary, eliminate any potential threats to galactic stability. Morrison faced an impossible choice between revealing humanity's full capabilities and allowing the hegemony to arrive with overwhelming force. The network had been monitoring galactic politics throughout their sleep and possessed detailed intelligence about hegemony weaknesses, but accessing that information would require direct connection. The sleeping fleet was fully awake now, but they faced enemies who controlled most of the galaxy through superior technology and systematic elimination of rivals. The next few days would determine whether humanity could reclaim its place among the stars, or whether both forms of human consciousness would face extinction. The ancient secrets were revealed, but the real test was yet to come. Fleet Admiral Kane Rossiter arrived in the Sol system with enough firepower to sterilize entire planets and a mandate to eliminate any threat to hegemony stability. His task force consisted of 12 dreadnoughts and supporting vessels equipped with weapons that had crushed dozens of rebellious civilizations. The sight of human ships arranged in perfect formation around Earth only confirmed his worst suspicions. Rossiter opened communications with both the human and Zephyrian fleets, demanding immediate surrender and preparation for inspection. His message made it clear that resistance would result in complete annihilation of all vessels and any inhabited worlds in the system. The hegemony had perfected the art of overwhelming force to prevent conflicts before they could begin. Admiral Morrison found himself facing the same impossible choice that had led to humanity's original split between physical and digital existence. He could surrender and watch his people be absorbed or destroyed by the hegemony, or he could fight and risk everything on technology that had been untested for 500,000 years. The decision was made for him when hegemony forces began charging weapons and deploying in attack formation. Morrison activated emergency protocols that connected the sleeping fleet directly to the network on Earth below. The result was immediate and devastating as human ships began moving with impossible precision and coordination. Every human crew member suddenly found themselves connected to the vast digital consciousness that housed trillions of their transformed cousins. Individual personalities remained intact, but their capabilities expanded exponentially as they accessed computational resources that dwarfed anything in the physical. Galaxy Captain Lisa Martinez felt the change immediately as her ship, UES Defiance, became an extension of her will rather than just a vessel she commanded. The quantum neural interfaces that had always connected her to the ship's systems now linked her to the collective intelligence of humanity, while preserving her individual identity and decision-making authority. The first exchange of fire demonstrated the gap between hegemony technology and human capabilities. Rossiter's weapons struck human defensive screens and simply ceased to exist as the energy was absorbed and redirected into empty space. Meanwhile, human return fire adapted instantly to any defensive measures and struck with surgical precision. Commander Amy Foster led a combined human and Zephyrian task force against the hegemony fleet using tactics that evolved faster than any enemy could counter. Her stealth ships moved through space like ghosts while gathering intelligence and striking at vulnerable points with weapons that ignored conventional defensive systems. Chief Engineer Ben Parker oversaw the real-time adaptation of human technology. As the network provided new innovations and improvements based on analysis of hegemony capabilities, human ships began repairing themselves faster than they could be damaged, while their weapons became increasingly effective against enemy defenses. Battle was unlike anything seen in galactic history, as human vessels demonstrated abilities that seemed to violate natural laws. Ships that should have been destroyed by overwhelming firepower continued fighting, while their crews operated with perfect coordination and infinite patience. Derek Kinara watched from the relative safety of the Zephyrian exploration vessel as human technology revealed its true potential. The quiet sleeping fleet had transformed into something that moved and fought like a single vast organism while maintaining the individual creativity that made humans so dangerous. Rossiter found his overwhelming technological advantage useless against an enemy that adapted to every tactic faster than he could implement new strategies. Human ships seemed to learn from every attack while their defensive capabilities grew stronger with each passing moment. The turning point came when Foster's infiltration teams discovered the hegemony's greatest secret. Hidden within their command vessels were genetic samples and technological archives from hundreds of extinct civilizations. The Empire had been systematically harvesting young species for their diversity and innovation while eliminating any potential threats. This revelation changed everything as the network began broadcasting proof of hegemony crimes across all communication channels in the galaxy. Species that had believed their extinct neighbors had fallen to natural disasters or internal conflicts learned the truth about systematic extermination. Morrison made a command decision that would reshape galactic politics forever. Instead of simply defeating the hegemony task force, he offered every species in their empire a choice between continued servitude and freedom under human protection. The sleeping giants were no longer content to hide. The response was immediate as rebellion broke out across multiple systems. Species that had been held in check by hegemony technology suddenly found themselves supported by human vessels that appeared wherever they were needed most. The network's computational resources allowed perfect coordination of support efforts. Martinez established diplomatic contact with rebel leaders throughout the galaxy while human factory ships began producing hybrid vessels that combined human innovation with alien engineering. The new ships were specifically designed for species that lacked the neural interfaces needed to operate pure human technology. Parker supervised the construction of new Alliance vessels that represented the best capabilities of multiple species working together. Human adaptability merged with Zephyrian efficiency and innovations from dozens of other civilizations to create something unprecedented in galactic history. Foster led intelligence operations that revealed the complete structure of hegemony control, including the location of their core worlds and the political mechanisms that maintained their empire. Armed with this information, the Alliance could strike at the foundation of their power rather than just fighting endless battles. The war that followed was swift and decisive as human technology proved overwhelming against enemies who had grown complacent through centuries of unopposed dominance. Hegemony forces found themselves facing an enemy that could not be defeated through conventional means. Rossiter's task force was captured rather than destroyed, and their crews given the same choice offered to all hegemony personnel. They could join the new Galactic Alliance as equals or return to their core worlds with the understanding that future aggression would result in permanent consequences. The network began reaching out to other digital civilizations that had been hiding throughout the galaxy, while the physical alliance expanded to include every species willing to embrace cooperation over domination. Humanity had fulfilled their ancient promise to never again face extinction alone. Morrison stood on his flagship bridge watching construction of the first joint alliance station in orbit around Earth. The sleeping fleet was no longer needed as guardians because the galaxy itself had awakened to the possibility of freedom and cooperation. The transformation was complete as humanity took its place not as conquerors but as protectors of diversity and freedom among the stars. The choice between physical and digital existence was no longer forced upon anyone, as both forms of consciousness worked together to build something better than either could achieve alone. Captain Martinez commanded the first diplomatic mission to species beyond the old hegemony borders, carrying news of the Alliance and offers of protection for any civilization willing to embrace mutual cooperation. The sleeping giants had become active guardians of galactic freedom. Commander Foster established intelligence networks that would prevent any future attempts to recreate the hegemony system, while Chief Engineer Parker continued developing hybrid technologies that allowed every species to contribute their unique capabilities to the Alliance. The galaxy learned that some species were indeed worth waiting 500,000 years to meet again, and that sleeping giants, when finally awakened, could reshape the universe itself.